I love movies, guys. If you haven't know, or if you don't know, I love movies, and that's what we're gonna be talking about today. We're gonna be talking about movies and they connections to me. Like you develop a what? You develop a connection to the certain characters in movies, right? And we're gonna be talking about some of those connections today. But first, let's talk about some of my favorite movies. First movie, if you don't know, is actually, how about this? You tell me what my favorite movie is, okay? Okay, that's what you do. You tell me what my favorite movie is, okay? In three, two, one. You get extra points if you tell me, okay, what is it? If you said Titanic, you are correct. If you said anything else besides Titanic, why are you even watching this show, okay? You don't know who I am. Okay, for you new listeners, I'm sorry. Y'all probably listening to this episode, or y'all didn't listen to the past couple of episodes, and y'all don't know that I have a love for Titanic. But for y'all, long time watchers, listeners of the show, shame on you. Shame on you. You should know that this is my favorite movie. You know how you could tell it's my favorite movie? Because when I started this show, I said, Gabriel, let's do a podcast. And he said, what it's going to be about? I said, anything and everything. And he said, okay, what the first episode going to be about? I said, well, the first episode should just be about us just telling people what the show is going to be about, talk about our friendship and stuff like that. He said, okay, so we did that. What's the second episode going to be about? Second episode going to be about Black history. Why? Because I'm black and I think it's something that's important that we need to do. What's the third episode going to be about? The third episode going to be about Titanic. And why do I love Titanic so much? It's a great film. It's a great love story. First of all, there you go. Love story. Everybody loves a love story, right? Now you make it look beautiful. You put in a lot of work, and then you have James Horner do the music for it. If you don't know anything about James Horner's music tells a story, right? If a lot of his music tells a story, like you move with it, right? Right? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I love it, and I don't think anybody else could have did this except for him, right? And on top of the love story, the work that they put in, the visuals of it, and the music, it is a great fucking story. And I love that movie. I know it's about one of the worst disasters that ever happened in the world, but they did a great job at putting it together. And then if you go back and you do like interviews with James Cameron, he wanted it to be accurate, right? He wanted it not to offend anyone who was watching it. So he was very accurate with a lot of things. And there was even people, like family members of the people who sank on the ship, they were like, it was a very good film, and I wasn't offended by it. And I really liked when he added this, and I really liked when he added that and stuff like that. So I love that film. Another one of my films is Back to the fucking Future. I love that movie. I just recently rewatched that movie, right? And I'm watching that movie and I'm going through it like I'm watching it for the very first time, right? I'm watching. See, when I watch Back to the Future, I just can't watch one. I have to watch one, two, and three, and I have to watch them in order. Okay, I don't care if it's simultaneously, like same day, or if it's split up into days. I have to watch them, right? Like if I start one, you bet your ass the next 2 days I'm watching Back to the Future, right? Or I'm gonna try to get it as close as I can because that's I don't think you can watch just one. You just can't watch just one. To me, you can't anyway. And I love how you have three stories and they all connect, right? They all connect. You have the first one who's just the basis, the platform. This is they're starting out. Then you have the second one. It's connecting to the first one. They're even doing throwbacks, right? They're saying, "Hey, remember when this happened in the first movie, right?" And then you have the third one. It tries to be different. It is different. And they still do throwbacks to the second and the first one. And they keep all their rules the same. There are some little things that are a little wonky with the whole movie. But at the end of the day, it's a great film that's greatly put together. And Adam Silvestri, he was the composer for that movie, right? And Adam Silvestri, he's another composer who's music tells a story. Like if you listen to just the soundtrack of Back to the Future and the score of Back to the Future, you can feel like when the DeLorean is starting, when Marty's in the car, when Marty goes back in time. Like you can tell, you can feel. It tells the story as it's going on. And I just love that movie. I don't care if the movie came out like if the main focus of it was stupid. Like you've got the director and they're sitting there and they're just like, "Hi, I found this picture of my dad, right? And back in high school, and I want to know what would it have been like to go back in time and be there with my dad in high school, right?" And then they started doing jokes and stuff like that. And said, it would be crazy if, like, you intercepted your mom and dad's relationship and your mom tried to sleep with you. I think we got something here. And then they came up with that movie. Yeah, the idea may have came from somewhere weird, but it's a great freaking movie. Another movie that I really like is Bug's Life. Bug's Life. Bug's Life is the second movie from Pixar, and it is so great. Listen, I do like new Pixar, how they're starting to tell a lot more stories and they're trying to have a meaning in their stories. But I do like how in the beginning Pixar was just there to make movies, right? They were just like, hey, let's get this product, let's put it out, and let's just tell a story. And that's what they did. And that's what they did with Bugs Life. It's good. They have little jokes in there, man. It was just little jokes that are just funny, Hey, you want to pollinate with a real bug? Oh, so being a ladybug automatically makes me a girl. Is that it, wise guy? She's a guy! Like, I just love stuff like that. I love Bugs Life. And then Randy Newman. Randy Newman did the composition for that. If you don't know who Randy Newman is, he's basically the dude who does all Pixar stuff. You got a friend in me. Like, he's that dude, right? And it's just such a good movie that I really, really love. The last movie that I really, really love, that I just fell in love with recently. Not recently, but a couple years ago. Is the movie Don't Look Up, right? It's a fantastic movie. I am one of those people who usually doesn't watch newer movies over and over again. I swear to God, I have only seen The Avengers once. You know what? I'll give myself a little grace. I've seen Avengers a couple of times, right? But most of those movies after that, I've only seen once. Endgame, once, right? Infinity War, once. All these new movies came out. I've only seen them once. And not because I don't like them, they just they didn't hit me, right? So I enjoyed them. I liked them. Would I watch them again? Yes, but they didn't hit me a certain way. Like I'm saying, Titanic's hit me a certain way. Back to the Future hit me a certain way. Don't Look Up hit me a certain way. And it's the same thing with Bugs Life. They hit me a certain way. So I don't watch movies over again unless they hit me a certain way, right? And Don't Look Up did. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's it's the I will say it's the suspense, right? If you don't know what the movie Don't Look Up is, go to Netflix, go watch it. Pause it, go to Netflix, go watch it right now. It's basically about this meteor. There's this scientist. She discovers a meteor. They calculate the distance because everybody's going to want to see this meteor pass Earth. And what they find out is that this meteor is going to hit Earth, right? And then what happens is they go and they start telling people about this, but people think they are crazy. And then it becomes basically a political thing, right? You have one side of the political party, they say, this thing ain't real, this ain't going to hit, we need to stop trying to scare people. And the other side are like, hey, this thing is going to hit, we need to do something about it, right? And then the story goes on to where they are going to destroy the meteor because they find out that it's actually going to hit. But when they go and they do tests on it, they see that this meteor is made of a certain material, right, that they can use on Earth and make a bunch of money from. So then now they're going to try to split it, right? Remember in Armageddon when they was going to drill through it and they split it and then it went It split and went past Earth. That's what they were going to try to do. But it didn't work. And so now, in this whole movie, you have these scientists. They're trying to tell these people, hey, you need to prepare for this meteor. You have the government. They're just like, we need to extract this stuff from here, right? And they've only got a little bit of window of time. And I think that suspense of wondering, are they going to either evacuate? Are they going to drill through the meteor? Or is the meteor going to hit? The suspense in that whole movie, like the music in it, right? The acting in it. Like, I love Leonardo DiCaprio, right? And usually you see Leonardo DiCaprio as this big playboy billionaire, the cutie kind of dude, like he's the good looking dude who always gets the girl type of a deal, right? You rarely see him in movies where he's like the geek or the guy who has everything going for him. You really see him in that. And in this one, he's the geeky scientist who's panicking about this meteor, right? And then you have Jennifer Lawrence. I love Jennifer Lawrence, man. You have her. And, she's got a unique way of acting, right? I think certain actors and actresses have a unique way of acting, and they're allowed to, they have their way of putting it in. It's kind of like Ryan Reynolds, right? Ryan Reynolds, he has a unique way of acting. It's kind of basically him acting like, or it's him inserting himself into the character. Now, I'm not saying Jennifer Lawrence does that, but what I'm saying is she just has a unique way of acting, and she brings a unique vibe to the film, right? And that's what she did in this one here. That's what she did in Don't Look Up. It's just a fantastic movie with the music, the suspense, the acting in it. I think people really portrayed this really, really great. And this movie came out at the time of the 2020 elections, right? It was basically this whole movie is basically political, right? It's basically talking about how how we're divided on certain issues, and basically how I think what it thinks about this movie is that how we as people need to come together when we see a problem, because if we don't, the problem could overtake us, right? That's what I kind of do. But they do it in such a unique way. Like, I love movies that have a lesson or a point in it, but they just give it to you so nonchalantly, right? And so that's my love for movies. And now we're going to get into why and how I connected to characters and why they're so important to me, because y'all just heard me rant for about 12 minutes about why I love movies. So let's keep doing it. Let's keep talking about all the movies I love and dive even deeper. Here we go. I love it when an actor becomes the character, right? I love it so much, right? You just heard me talk about Titanic, Back to the Future, Bug's Life, and Don't Look Up. And in all those movies, you can see that the actor became the character, right? Some of my favorite actors are Chadwick Boseman, Harrison Ford, Hugh Jackman. And the reason why I name these, because I already mentioned Leo and Jennifer Lawrence earlier, but the reason why I name these actors is because a lot of these actors they play so many characters, right? And they become the characters. Freaking Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. But he also played Han Solo, right? And then he's played so many characters beyond that, right? Chadwick Boseman plays Jackie Robinson, right? He's T'Challa in Black Panther, and he goes on to play so many more characters, right? Hugh Jackman played Wolverine, but then went on and was in Les Mis. I think I said that right. Real Steel, The Greatest Showman, and he played those characters and became those characters. And I think that's what needs to happen in movies. That the actor or actress needs to become the character to make you believe that what is happening on screen is really happening, type of a deal. And these are some of my favorite people here because in each and every one of their movies, they do it, right? I don't look at them and say, well, this is Harrison Ford playing a character. No. I look at this is the character, right? Leonardo DiCaprio is another one, right? There were some people I don't like, you know. I think Ryan Reynolds is a great actor, but Ryan Reynolds, like I said earlier, he plays Ryan Reynolds for his character. Same thing with Will Ferrell. A lot of Will Ferrell's characters are the same, and I can't differentiate between either or, right? Like, if you threw on a Will Ferrell movie, I wouldn't be able to tell you which one it was, right? And there are some people who do love Will Ferrell, and he does that. You know, he's successful in that, right? And so I can't knock any of these actors, right? I can't knock Ryan Reynolds. I can't knock The Rock or Will Ferrell because they're making money at it, right? They're making money at what they do. And even though I myself might think that they play the same characters, there are people out there who love that they do that and they're making money off of that. So I can't really knock them for that. I just don't care for it, right? So I really like these movies, right? And one of the things that's really grinding my chain nowadays is that production companies are really playing on the nostalgic effect of people, right? Right? And I hate that so much, right? I hate that you had a movie that was successful back in the day. And in order for you to make money now, you want to bring that back by either recreating it or keeping the same story and then having it years later, right? If you're going to, with these production companies, one of the things I just hope they would start realizing is that when you do a movie, when you do something like this, it's art, it's creative, right? Like, you can do so much with certain things, right? Like, you have let's just take Star Wars for instance, right? George Lucas created this world and he could do so much with it, right? And what he did was he just really just stuck with the Skywalkers, right? And so nowadays people they're not playing on that nostalgicness of it, right? What they're saying is like this world that George Lucas made is so creative and is so big that we're going to start exploring different aspects of it. And what they're doing is very good, right? They realize that it's an art, and they realize that this is something we want the fans to enjoy, right? We're going to do it our way, but we're going to make sure we understand that it's an art and try to stay true to what our basis is, and it's the Star Wars world. But a lot of people, they don't do that, right? You got Beverly Hills Cop that just came out, right? You've got Indiana Jones that came out, right? Wolverine and Deadpool. These are movies that are really playing on the nostalgia aspect of people, right? We didn't need another Beverly Hills Cop, especially after number 3, okay? I don't feel like we need another Indiana Jones unless you're going to pass Indiana Jones on to someone else. But Harrison Ford said he's not going to allow anybody to play Indiana Jones. You literally are going to probably have to wait until he dies in order to find somebody to play Indiana Jones, right? And you're going to have to wait years after he dies to pay respects to him, right? And Hugh Jackman with Wolverine. Literally, Hugh Jackman said, hey, I'm not going to play Wolverine anymore. You know, that's what happened in Logan. Wolverine died, right? And now you have him back in Deadpool. Now, I will say, from what I've seen, I haven't seen that Deadpool Wolverine movie, but I could tell you probably it's got something to do with the multiverse, and so that this is not the original Wolverine that we've known to, that we've grown with. This is probably an alternate um, Wolverine. That's my thinking with that. But do we really need to play on the nostalgic part? Do we really need to do that? Because, and I think if you do that, like if you are going to try to play on people's nostalgia, you need to do it right. And I think a lot of people don't, because what happens is that people get older and they change and they can't keep the character the same, right? I love freaking Axel Foley, man. I've connected with Axel Foley, right? Like, I love Beverly Hills Cop. It's a smart movie, right? Axel is smart. He's charismatic. He's a cop trying to avenge his friend. In the first movie, and the same thing happening in the second one. His friend gets shot, and he's trying to figure out who shot his friend because his friend's on his deathbed, right? That's what he's trying to do. Not only do they have the drama, but it's funny. They do a bunch of shenanigans, right? They do certain things in each and every movie, right? And that's the hard part, right? You start doing stuff like in the first one, they went to a strip club. They did a thing with the car. In the second one, they went to the strip club. They did a thing with the car. And now you're trying to do that nowadays, right? And it's kind of hard because the actors and actresses are getting older. Beverly Hills Cop, like I said, it's just a great comedy. And I don't think it's one of Eddie Murphy's best films, but it's up there, man. It's up there. It's a very good film. And I love the way he plays the character. But watching this new movie, you see how Axel has grown over time. And I feel like with this new movie, they didn't really have they didn't know Axel, right? I feel like when you watch a movie over time, you develop a relationship with this person, like you know them, like they become your friend, right? You start to develop, you start to see how their personality is, right? And you start to know what they're going to do and things that they're going to say. And I feel like they tried to do that in this Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley. I feel like they were trying to do that, but I don't think they captured it, right? One, because Eddie Murphy's just older, right? Two, times have changed. And in this movie, they kind of did hint on that times have changed. But this is a very different Eddie Murphy. And you guys might be like, what are you talking about, Joe? Well, listen, when I say Eddie Murphy is one of my favorite actors, I mean it, right? He's like the only person I've ever done a deep dive on, right? And the reason why I did a deep dive on him was because there's a change in Eddie Murphy. If you haven't noticed, there's squarehead Eddie Murphy and there's circlehead Eddie Murphy, right? And there's a change between them, right? If you watch any of Eddie Murphy's like 80s movies, right? There's one Eddie Murphy. Then in the 90s is when he started to change. You can even see that in interviews, right? Like I was watching certain clips of Eddie Murphy doing interviews with Arsenio Hall on the Arsenio Hall show. And when you watch the ones like in the 80s, he's more energetic and things like that. Then he gets more chill in the 90s. And the 2000s, he's just this chill person. It's like you don't even know who the frick he is, right? And so I think that's kind of what happened. You have two different Eddie Murphys. You have the 80s Eddie Murphy and the earlier Beverly Hills Cop. And then you have the newer Eddie Murphy from 3 to this fourth one, right? Those are two different that you have there. And we saw the circlehead Eddie Murphy. And it's just very different. His mannerisms are different, which I guess that's something that happens over time. You could say the character did grow a little bit, but they were trying to make it seem like Axel Foley's in his 60s now, still trying to be the young, hip, 20 to 30-year-old Axel Foley. And I'm just like, no, man. Do one or the other. Show that how Axel has grown over the years, or keep him immature, right? Like they could have did something where Axel Foley is in his own world type of a deal, right? But they didn't, And then like I said earlier, I love movies who try to they have a lesson in something like that, and they do it nonchalantly. In this one, they did not do it nonchalantly. I'm going to spoil it, or I'm going to talk deep about it. So if you want to go see it, it's on Netflix. Go watch it. Pause. Go watch it. But in this one, it basically he has a not a good relationship with his daughter. And so they're trying to build that relationship in this movie, right? And I felt like it was kind of forceful in that. It was a good message and things like that, but between a relationship between a parent and a kid, but it felt like it was forceful. Also, too, if you notice in all the movies, there's always been something that brings Axel to Beverly Hills, like something dire. And the first one, his friend died, and he found out that the people who killed him were connected to Beverly Hills, so he went to Beverly Hills. And the second one, his one of his friends is shot and is on their deathbed, right? That seems dire. Like, my friend shot, he's almost about to die. He knows it's connected with Beverly Hills. And the third one, I don't even remember. I don't remember the third one. Okay, I listen. The third one is so bad you can't find it nowhere, right? I went to Netflix and I said Beverly Hills Cop. They have 1 and 2 in preparation for the new movie Axel Foley, right? I was like, where the fuck is 3? I had to go buy 3. Like, I had to go to YouTube and buy 3, or I had to go somewhere else and buy 3. And I'm like, why are these 2 on Netflix on here, but these other ones not? Like, if I go to Netflix right now and I look up Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, and you have 1, 2, and 3 on there. If I go look up Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, you have 1 and 2 on there. I ain't got to go search nowhere. I ain't got to go from one platform to another one. No, I ain't got to do that. So why can't they have it there? Because the movie sucked. Okay? Okay. All right. Enough about 3. But in 4, you have one of his friends get kidnapped. Right? Because he was getting close to a case. They should have killed him. I like the character who was kidnapped. I really do. But I just didn't feel like there was enough oomph for him to come back to Beverly Hills Cop. Or Beverly Hills, right? So that was one of those things. And then also, too, they were trying to put all the Axel-ness into it, and it just wasn't working, right? Also, too, they were trying to do a lot of things from back in the day. One things I will say towards, as you watch the movie, it does get better. Like, the friendship between Axel Foley and his friends in Beverly Hills, it's real. You could tell it's real, and I like that part of the movie, right? But overall, I don't think it's one of those ones that's like set in stone, to me. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, let's move on to the next movie. Indiana Jones. Okay. I remember the first time I watched Indiana Jones. The first one I ever watched was Indiana Jones, The Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I remember I was sitting down in our computer room at home. And it was kind of like a computer room / entertainment room, right? And I was sitting there watching it. And this was on VHS, right? And my dad was a truck driver. And he had came home and he had brought all his movies in with him at that time. I don't know if he was switching jobs or whatever, but he brought all his movies in. And I was like, Dad, I want to watch one of your movies. And so he put in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I remember watching this movie for the first time. And with John Williams and the music and stuff like that, fantastic story. I love that. I love that. And they kind of keep the indiness, at the same time. And I guess what I'll say is with these 2 movies, between Beverly Hills Cop and Indiana Jones, I have not seen the last one. So I'm just talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and the Crystal Skull. Between those 4 movies, they get the Indiana Jones right throughout all of them. I feel like Indiana Jones is the same throughout all of them. He just grew older, right? Or not, he just grew older or he younger, because like they had Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I think the other 2 are just prequels. So, freaking George Lucas. But, and then you have the Crystal Skull. But over time, you can just tell that he's the same person. Like, everything that encompasses Indiana Jones is in this movie, right? I can, if he does something, I'm like, yep, that's something Indy would do. Or, yep, that's something somebody else would do. You can't get over on Indy because he's smart like that. You know, I think they did just, they encompassed it really, really great. I think with the Crystal Skull, that's one of those ones where people were just like, you know, it was new and they didn't really care for it. But I guess this is what I'll say about movies. Because when you think about the film now, when I go back to 2009 and I think about the Crystal Skull and when it first came out, everybody hated it. Okay? I think even 10 years after the movie came out, everybody hated it. It wasn't until recently that I did that thing where I watched all of them, right? And it gave me an appreciation for all of them, right? Like when I watch a series like that, it's like one big story, right? And that's what happened. I think these were all separate stories, and you watch them, and we were all taking these stories as separate, and we were like, yeah, this is a good movie by itself, right? But I think when you get a series of movies, you need to look at it as the whole thing, right? And I think once you do that, you find out that The Crystal Skull is actually a pretty good film, and it does encompass all of the Indiana Jonesness of, right? That's what I think. You know, people, they talk about like aliens, aliens. I can't believe Indiana Jones did aliens. They did the Ark of the Covenant, and when they opened up the Ark of the Covenant, everybody melted. You don't think that's weird? That's on the same lines as aliens to me. Like there was this what? There was these the Temple of Doom, right? The Temple of Doom. You telling me that you can actually take your fingers like this, dig them into somebody's chest, pull out their heart, watch it pump. The dude is still alive screaming because he's looking at the guy who's got his heart. They burn him and then the heart burn his hand. That's not crazy. That's on the same line as aliens to me. What about in the Last Crusade? You got the cup that Jesus drank with at the Last Supper. Now it can heal people. Like that's on the same lines as aliens to me. I don't know. It's got the same thing. You know, I think with Indiana Jones, it has this thing that was somewhat real, right? Some artifact that was real, and then what happened was it put a twist on it, and that's what they did, right? That's what they did. And I haven't seen the newest one that came out, but I'm really interested to see how they do it. Does it live up to the other ones, right? Is it good by itself? Or is it good when I watch them all together? Right? We'll see what happens. Is it like a Back to the Future? You know, but I would love to hear what you guys think about these movies, right? Because I love movies, right? And I'm at that point in my life right now where back in the day I used to just watch movies for enjoyment, right? And now I'm at that point I watch movies and I'm analyzing why do I enjoy it, right? What does this scene do? Why do I love it because of the music? Do I love it because of the acting? Do I love the director? Like I'm analyzing these movies on why I love them, right? And it's just very, very, very good to me. And I hope that production companies from now on they just don't play on the nostalgic part of the movies. I hope that they realize that it's an art, right? And I hope that they realize that it's just not to make money because if you make a good product and you understand that it's art, what happens is the money will come. Right? It's kind of like this podcast, man. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love doing it and I understand that it's an art. That's why you guys see so many weird, crazy things happening with it, right? Like, I'm debating if I should keep the intro as long as I should. But then I think about, man, I really spent time making that intro, right? I might cut it down one of these days, but I spent time making that intro, and that intro kind of encompasses all that Gateway Pro and the Joe Show and the Balderdash podcast is, and so that's why I have that intro. It's art, and I do it, and I understand that even though I'm not really making too much money off of this show now, it'll come later. And if that doesn't come later, at least it'll give some people a little bit of joy, right? That's what I love. I hope that they understand that. I hope that when they make films, they have films that stand the test of time, right? Indiana Jones was made in the 80s. Beverly Hills Cop was made in the 80s, and they stand the test of time so much that you wanted to make more of them, or you wanted to redo a lot of them, right? Like, I just hope they start understanding that. Like, Disney, you can punch out as many Marvel movies as you want, but if they're not good, people aren't going to stop going. And if they stop going, you're just going to throw it away. And I would hate for Marvel to just be thrown under the bus because you have these production companies just throwing them out and people get bored of them, right? Like, I just think that's just crazy. We don't need that. We keep making it. People are enjoying it. Just make them good. I don't understand how you have these millions and billions of dollars for throwing into these movies productions and they suck, right? There are movies who don't get any, they don't get the budget that a lot of these big production companies get, right? They they can't do everything that these production companies do, right? But they have a good story, right? And they just do a fantastic job. But they don't get the accolades that these big productions get because they ain't got the money. So then, you got me scrolling on Tubi or something like that, or on Netflix, and you know how you get real deep and down in Netflix, like if you start scrolling, you keep scrolling, you start seeing them weird movies, you get to that point, you say, hey, what's this movie? I'm going to watch this movie. And then you watch it. And you're like, wow, this movie is fantastic. How come no one's ever heard of it? Because they just didn't have that production company. Man, and I think that's ridiculous. So I hope that because I love movies so much, I hope that production companies do a better job, right? We don't need another Beverly Hills Cop. The two that you have are very good. This last one you did was just okay. Third one sucked, right? Indiana Jones series is fantastic. I haven't seen the last one, but I hope that it lives up to the hype, right? These other movies, I hope they're good. I want all movies to be good because it's somebody's dream. It's somebody's story, right? A lot of people go into this, to make these. Like, I love watching the credits. People hate the credits, but I love the credits because you're sitting there seeing all the people who put their hard work into this film. And just because you say the film's bad or the critics say the film's bad, all this stuff is just they're like, oh no, we don't want to watch that. And then they're gonna be like, hey, you're Brandon Sykes. And they'd be like, yeah, Brandon Sykes, you were on the production of that one movie that sucked. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna go with you. Hey, you were on the production of that good movie. I'm gonna put you. Can't have that, man. Because we're all artists. We're trying to get out and we're trying to just do a thing. So, all right. So, tell me what you guys think about this. I'm going to leave you with this last thing. Fun fact of the day. The Slinky was accidentally invented during World War II. In 1943, naval engineer Richard James was working on springs to stabilize sensitive equipment on ships. One day he accidentally knocked over a spring, and to his surprise, it walked down a shelf instead of falling. This fun fact is brought to you by Gateway Pro Productions. Photography, video, or audio, Gateway Pro is there to help you make memories last. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that fun fact. I hope you enjoyed me talking about movies because I love movies, okay? I love them so much. I think movies are one of those things that kind of help you escape from the world. And that's one of the reasons why I do this show because I hope that this show helps you escape a little bit. I know sometimes we can talk about the news and real hard topics and things like that, but I hope that in our other episodes, it can help you escape from the world because I think we need a little bit of escapism, right? And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about next week, right? Believe or not believe. And I'm going to be kind of talking about how we all have a crutch, right? Because the world is a scary place. And we all need something to get us through it. So make sure you stay tuned and join us next week for Believe or Not Believe. That's our next episode we got coming on here. Guys, if you like this episode, if you want to talk about movies or anything, don't be afraid to drop me a line, bruh. I sit there and talk to you about movies all day. All day. I do that all day. Okay, so make sure you go to Gateway Pro Productions on Facebook, the Boulder Dash _ 2020 on Instagram and TikTok, Gateway or GWP on Tablet. Yep, it's about that time. It's about that time for me to stop. TeePublic /GWP. That's where you can go find our merch. And don't be afraid to like and comment on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Guys, go out into the world and spread love, joy, and peace because we need it, right? And make sure you come back next week for another episode of the Boulder Dash Podcast. I will see y'all later. Bye-bye.